Okay, take away.
Good morning, ladies. Sandy, it's so good to see you again. Christine, as always. Diana, your bright, beautiful face. I love seeing you here. Darlene, I saw your message about you being sick. I hope you feel better, but thank you for being here. And Grace is on the move, as always. So thank you so much for joining. Yes, for those who do not know, I know, Sandy. Okay, we'll talk. For those who do not know, yes, my name is Portia Mystique. I am the director of the Temecula chapter of Global Society for Female Entrepreneurs. When I am not doing that, yes, like Dr. Angie said, I own a publishing company based out of Montana. But most importantly, I'm an award winning book coach. I am a TEDx speaker and I'm a self publishing expert. And my job is to help entrepreneurs, or as I like to say, flawless, amazing, incredible, powerful women who have services or businesses in which they do coaching or consulting. I help them write powerful books and then leverage those books to generate income, influence, and expand their thought leadership. Because at the end of the day, we all know the power of books, but most people just publish that book with their story and it doesn't do anything for them. So, one thing I want you ladies to know about me, and you could probably tell from my energy, I'm like this all the time. Okay. I pride
Well,
myself on being an authentic and woman with integrity, right? So everything that comes out of my mouth, I promise you, you could take it to the bank. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. So when I make promises, understand that I mean that. And my goal here today is to not gatekeep information. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in an industry, especially independent publishing. We find ourselves in an industry where there's too much information and so many people struggle with filtering through all of it. But all the information that's readily available is just the basics, right? There are some fundamental aspects of self publishing that nobody talks about that we need to know in order to grow and scale our businesses with books. So that's what today is all about. I'm going to be walking you through the 5 pillars of producing, publishing, and monetizing a best selling book. So, we're going to do a little bit of a screen share here. And I just need to see some thumbs up because I'm going to see you beautiful faces on camera. Okay. I can see you. I can see you. So I need a thumbs up to tell me if you can see this screen here. Yes. Look at that. All right. Everybody sees it. All right. Perfect. Let's start with expectations. Okay. What are you going to expect out of today? Number one, understand that this is going to be a 75 to 90-minute session. I do not expect that the workshop itself is going to go beyond an hour and a half, but that leaves us time for questions. Okay. That's going to be very important because I'm coming at you with tons of information and those questions are going to be coming up. So we need to leave space for that. Number two, as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about the 5 pillars of independent publishing. And then I'm going to detail for you 2 major mistakes that authors make when publishing their book and how you can avoid them. And then number three, I'm going to leave an opportunity at the end of this session for you guys to get continued support. And then we're going to do a Q&A. Now, a couple of housekeeping rules before we begin. This will be so much easier if you guys can make sure that you have your cameras on, because I don't know if you guys know this, but I feed off of other people's energy. So if I can see your faces, it's going to make this so much more fun. Trust me, right? So if you can turn your camera on, I ask that you do. I also ask that if you can get rid of distractions, do so. And not just because distractions aren't great, but because I want to make sure that you consume and hold on to all the information that I give you. And when I say I don't gatekeep information, I mean I'm giving you all the tea, all the information, okay? So if you get rid of distractions, it will allow you to write down everything and retain all the information that I give. So phones, turn them off. I'm going to throw mine on my couch. It's gone. I have officially thrown my phone. So you could turn yours off. If you're using your phone for Zoom, don't turn it off. Keep it on. And then I highly recommend that you get pencil and paper, okay? Take notes as we go. Now you'll notice that as I'm going through it, I'm going to tell you to take a screenshot of something that I have on the screen, okay? There's going to be a graphic there that's going to be very important for you. So make sure that you have something ready for you. I told you to throw your phone. Actually, don't throw your phone because you're going to need to take pictures of the screen, right? But have your pen and pad to take notes. Now we're going to be asking questions throughout, but if I'm in the heat of it and I need to finish explaining something, please do not be afraid to utilize the chat. You could put your question in the chat, and once I've paused, I'm going to go to the chat to answer questions. Does that sound good to everybody? Can I get some thumbs up? How are we feeling about that? Sound good? Awesome. Diane was like, I'm giving you 2 thumbs up, Portia, just so you know. Thank you. All right, let's dive right in. The 5 pillars of a successful book. Let's take a look at each of these pillars. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down one by one a bit later. You ready? 5 pillars of a successful book. Number 1, write the dang thing. I mean, that's simple, right? First thing you got to do is write the book. So write the book. After the book is written, you now have to produce it. And I love production. That's probably one of my zones of genius, is what it looks like to actually produce a book. Number 3, publish it, release it to the world. You've birthed this thing. Now you got to send it out into the world. Number 4, launch it. Oh, so many people launch books in different ways. And guess what? I found the secret sauce to launching a book to generate 5 figures. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly how to do that. And then number 5, monetize it. Hello, we have very powerful books and they're amazing. They're beautiful, but we invest a lot of time, money, and energy into our books. And if we can kind of make that back, who wouldn't want to, right? So let's dive into these 5 pillars, starting with write the thing. Now, understand that as I am detailing all this information here, my zone of genius is nonfiction books. Okay. These are what I like to call thought leadership books, business development, self help, personal development, those types of things. Okay. And what's beautiful about nonfiction books is in this day and age, they are the most popularly consumed books across the globe. Nonfiction books outsell fiction books all the time, especially post COVID. So during COVID, people really started to dive into their own personal areas of expertise, and they realized that they can produce highly impactful books. So as we go through today, understand that this is going to be coming from me talking to you about a nonfiction book. Okay. So there are 3 things that you need to understand in order to write a book. Number 1, problem and solution. Which I know it's crazy. People are like, what are you saying? Just hear me out. We're walking through this. You need to understand the problem and solution. The next thing you need is the big promise. And the third element is a detailed outline. Okay, let's start with that first one, problem and solution. What do I mean by that? I'm going to give you a very simple statement, ladies, and I want you to understand that I say this statement on every stage I get on. I speak on about 20 or 30 stages a year, and what I love about it is that this statement never fails to be true, to be false. No, to be true. The point is, it's always true. Okay. The world's most impactful books are simply solutions to the problems that people have. Let's say it one more time. The world's most impactful books are simply solutions to the problems that people have. I mean, think about it. Most people would agree that the number 1 best-selling book in the world is what? And you can unmic and just shout it out. What is the number 1 best-selling book of all time?
A Bible.
The Bible. Thank you, Dr. Susie, and it's so good to see you. Yes, ma'am. Most people agree that the Bible is the number 1 best-selling book of all time. Why is that the number 1 best-selling book of all time? Because it solves a problem. No matter how many times we read it, no matter how much we've memorized that book, whenever we come across a problem, we turn to that book for a solution. And even outside the Bible, if you were to ask an adult, what is their favorite book? I guarantee I put $20 on it. I bet you $20 that the that person said that that book is their favorite is because it solved a problem for them. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background. One of my favorite books of all time is The Alchemist. Oh, how many of you read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho? The Alchemist is such a powerful book. It details the personal journey of a young man. He goes to a witch, and the witch tells him that he has to go to Egypt to find treasures, and that's going to be his personal journey. He goes on this long journey and he discovers himself and he learns about a bunch of different stuff. But one of the most profound moments of that book is when he comes across a village. And in this village is a beautiful woman who he instantly falls in love with. He falls in love with her, and he's like, I'm not going to finish my journey. I'm not going to continue on to Egypt because you are my treasure. I'm here. I'm going to stay here. I quit. I give up my whole journey. I found you, so I'm done. And she tells him, are you crazy? No, go finish your journey. I'm going to be here when you get back. And that one statement changed his entire mindset because it made him understand the true concept of love and how, and he phrased it this way, it's love without attachment. See, by the time I read that book, I was recently married to my husband. We've been married for 5 years, but the first 2 years of our marriage was really a struggle. And I realized that I was very codependent. Whenever he left the house, I'd be like, when are you coming back? Where are you going? Who you hanging out with? Can we go together? Like, talk about putting a chain around his neck. That was me. I was the old ball and chain. He couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't do anything without my say so. But what I realized was that was actually damaging to our relationship. And he never said anything, but I could feel that our communication was breaking down. We weren't as romantic as we started out. Just things started to feel weird. And then when I read that part of the book and I started to understand what love without attachment meant, I literally had to put the book down. I went into my living room where my husband was sitting on the couch, and I was like, I am so sorry. I had to realize that I was chaining him. And it was because of that book. And that book had changed something so fundamental in my marriage that we now, me and my husband now have a very strong relationship. We're friends and not just a couple. It's a beautiful thing. And now I talk about how powerful that book is. And it is my favorite because it solved a problem. Now imagine that you've written a book and people all around the world talk about what that book means to them, what it did for them, how it shifted their lives. See, that's always going to be more powerful than, let's say, a memoir. Because funny enough, this is what most people get wrong. When they're writing a book, they want to write a book because they have a powerful story. And that's great. Everybody has a beautiful story. But here's the thing about your story. If the person does not know you already, they're not likely to be impacted by that story unless it solved a problem for them. So you have to be clear on the problem and you have to present the solution. Because I'm going to tell you something, ladies. Readers are selfish. Oh, somebody finally said it. Readers are selfish. And guess what? It is their job. They're supposed to be selfish. The more selfish the reader, the more beneficial it is for us, the author. So if the reader picks up a book and says, what's in it for me? And then you delivered on that, oh my gosh, they're going to love you for forever. Which brings us to the next element, the big promise. Believe it or not, every book written by mankind contains a promise. The promise to be entertained, to be educated, to be inspired, to be motivated, whatever it is, it contains a promise. And your job as an author is to deliver on that promise. That's your sole job. Let me give you an example. Now, I don't know if you ladies know this, but I may be young. I'm quite young. I'm 32. And people my age, we typically are really great at social media, right? Y'all see them dancing on TikTok and stuff. Let me tell you something. I suck at social media. I hate it. I hate Instagram. I hate LinkedIn. I hate Facebook. I hate TikTok. None of it is my friend. I am so bad at it. It's horrible. But they tell us you got to get good at social media in order to grow and scale your business. So I said, all right, fine. I'm going to try my best to get great at Instagram. Well, what do we do when we have a problem? We look for a book that provides a solution. So I go to the library and I find a book called How to Be an Instagram Pro. I read that title and I'm like, yep, that's it. That's me. This is my book. This book was written for me. I've never had a letdown in a book so much in my life. It was terrible. Now let me tell you, I did the audiobook version, okay? So I'm a big audiobook person. I like listening to them because I have to read for business, so I rarely get to read for pleasure. So I listen to books for pleasure. This was a 6-hour audiobook. 6 hours. The first 30 minutes, the woman says who she is and what she does and why she's awesome. Hey, I love it. Build your credibility. Talk to me. Build that up, right? You need that rapport so I can start listening to you. So I said, okay, cool. By the 1 hour mark, this whole time, the only thing she's talked about is how she managed to find her way on a beach in Bali. She loved it so much. She took her kids and Instagram funded her whole life. She's built the vision. Okay, I get it. Now I'm seeing what's possible. But hey, listen, we're already an hour in and she hasn't taught me anything. So I said, all right, I'm going to take my time. Let me continue listening. By the 2 hour mark, all she has said was that she's on a beach. She's funded her kids' college tuition and she's been able to collaborate with celebrities. Did she tell me how she did that with Instagram? No. Did she tell me which strategies she used? No. So I fast forward the book and I jump to the final hour, the 6th hour, and I'm listening to that 6th hour, waiting for some nuggets. And did she give them? No. Throughout the whole book, all she says was things that we already knew about Instagram, that it's a finicky algorithm and you got to use hashtags. She didn't tell me how to use the hashtags. She didn't tell me what to do with the algorithm. It was just her opportunity to talk about how awesome she is. Now, I made the mistake of not reading the reviews. So I went and I read the reviews and everybody talked about how horrible it was. Now, let me ask you, if this woman releases another book, do you think I'm going to buy it? No. Do you think I'm going to tell my friends that you should go get this book? It changed my life. No. She made a very large promise and she did not keep it. And that will forever change the relationship that she has with me and all the other people who read the book. She effectively damaged her reputation. The promise is everything. Every word, every sentence, every phrase, every paragraph, every chapter should be saturated with that kept promise. See, when you're offering a solution to people, there's a promise in that solution. I promise that by reading this book and following the advice that I give you, you will ... So if I write a book on how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days, what's the promise? That if you read this book and follow the advice, you're going to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. The very simple promise that I must deliver on. Do we follow? I know it's all right there. Thumbs up. We feeling good? Awesome. 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 All right, let's keep it going. The third element is the detailed outline. How many of you here would be willing to build a house if I gave you the tools, I gave you the hammer, I gave you the brick, I gave you the wood, I gave you the nails, but I told you you're not going to have a blueprint? How many of you would start building the house? Nobody. Because you cannot build a house without a blueprint. You cannot build a house without a floor plan. Trying to write a book without an outline is like attempting to build a house without a blueprint. What an outline does is, number one, it holds you accountable for that big promise. See, you're stating a promise and you have to deliver on it. So if you have a beautiful outline of what your book will contain, you can ensure that the promise is stated and kept. Another beautiful thing about having a book outline is the accountability. Whew, man, if you're just having a blank screen and you see that blinking cursor just go like this, it's just flashing at you. And you're like, I don't know what to type. Yeah, that's because you don't have an outline. You don't have a strategy. And a detailed outline gives you the strategy to be able to craft, right? Not write, but to craft a powerful book that is meant to change lives. So an outline is necessary. Now understand this, an outline can make or break your book. So you have to make sure that it's powerful. So if you know, okay, I'm just typing for the sake of typing, I'm writing all the things in my story, and I'm trying to make it sound a certain way, but I don't have an outline. I really don't know what I'm going to say next. I don't know where this is going. I made a point, but I didn't give you details about that point. You start talking in circles, which limits the power of your book. If the reader is reading it and they find themselves saying, would you get to the point already? You've missed the mark, right? An outline keeps you from missing the mark. So, with these three elements, number one, understanding the problem and solution. Number two, stating the big promise. And then number three, crafting a detailed outline, you'll be able to write a truly powerful book that will stand the test of time. Now, I'm going to pause there before we move on to pillar number two. Any questions? How you ladies feeling about that? And feel free to raise your electronic hand or you could type it in the chat. We feeling good? Or you can just give me a thumbs up because I can see you. Okay. Thumbs up. They're like, I got it, Portia. I don't have any questions. You explained it so clearly. Okay, perfect. Let's move on to the next pillar.
I have questions.
Oh, yes, Dr. Angie.
Okay, so like me, for example, I'm a lot better in expressing and recording my thought before I can write because sometimes, my thought is faster than what I can write. So what I did, in the first book, similar like this, but I recorded first instead of writing the detailed outline. And then it triggered my mind. So what is your thought about that? Like especially the outline. I have it in here, but I can't write it fast enough. So what I did is I recorded first what is fresh in my mind. And then I can write it, follow up, because otherwise I lose the train of thought.
Absolutely.
What's
So
your
funny
thought
enough,
about that?
yeah, so what's so beautiful about the process of writing a book is that everybody kind of writes differently, right? Our brains all function differently. So while some people can think and write, other people need to speak and write. Some people need to visualize and then write. So in your case, you would use a strategy that I call word vomit. I know it sounds disgusting, but here's how it works. When I'm working with an author who's an orator like you, what we do is we get into a conversation and I just have you talk for about a good 30 minutes to an hour. And what we do is we take everything that you're saying and we just throw it on paper in no particular order, right? It's not detailed, it's not sexy, it's not pretty. No, it's just everything out of your head and onto paper so that we can see it. Then from there, what I like to do is highlight some of the things that you said that sound like they should be in the book. Maybe it's topics that you mentioned, somebody that you referenced, a source that you want to pull from, a story that you want to tell. We start to circle those, and what I call those are golden nuggets. Now, if you have about 10 to 15 golden nuggets found in your word vomit, now we can build a beautiful outline. So we took the thoughts from your head, we put them on paper, we selected them, we put them in an outline, and now you can write without having to think of what you want to say, because the outline says what you want to say. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? All right, let's keep it going. Pillar number two. Oh, wait, you guys might want to screenshot this. Sorry. This pillar number one is very important. These are the three elements. So if you want to take your picture, you're going to take a picture of this, you want to pull out your phone, you want to screenshot it, go ahead. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. These three elements of writing the book. All right, now that the book is written, guess what you're ready to do? You're ready to produce it. Oh, production. Now, the funny thing about production is when we talk about investments, this stage is where your money goes. When you're wanting to invest, you need to invest in the production of a book because the way a book looks determines everything. A book that looks crappy doesn't go far, unfortunately. And see, what I love about independently published books is that we have the choice to be able to craft a beautiful book. Because at the end of the day, you want to know the truth of the matter? Everybody judges a book by its cover. All right, so let's take a look at the three pieces of this. And now understand, I did it kind of as a pie chart so that you can see where most of your money is going. So there are three main elements to production. You have editing, you have cover design, and you have interior design, or also known as formatting. Now, you see editing has a larger piece of the pie. That's because that's where you invest the most. Then you have cover design and interior design, which can be rather cheap. Here's the thing. When people think of independent publishing or self-publishing, they think that self-publishing is synonymous with DIY. Oh, I published the book myself, so I should design the book myself. No, you shouldn't. No, do not do any of it yourself, because you want to know why? When you do it yourself, it looks like you did it yourself. And readers can always tell the difference. And the funny thing about editing, and we're going to start there actually, let's just jump right into it. Editing is the most costly part of putting a book together, because there's nothing worse than having a printed book and finding a bunch of typos, grammar errors, misspelled words, and all kinds of other contextual issues. It damages the credibility and the reputation of your book, and it comes across as a book that is low quality. Now, if you, as the author, did low quality work, then I'm going to expect low quality results when reading it. So why should I invest my money or my time to read this book? And with editing, I always recommend hiring a professional editor. Believe it or not, ladies, I have been a professional editor before I became a book coach and before I started my publishing company. I was editing books, both fiction and nonfiction, for hundreds of authors. And I also did technical editing for websites, software platforms, and even government entities, right? So editing was my game. When I wrote my book, The CEO Author, I did not edit it. And I'm a professional editor. I'm a certified editor, and I did not edit my book. Why? Because the brain is the most powerful autocorrect software on this planet, even better than your phones. See, when you know what's supposed to be on the page, your brain will tell you that that's what you see, even if it's not. You guys ever see those tests that they used to post on social media and they would have the word the repeat twice? And then they would ask you to read it and like, did you catch that second the? And most people don't, because the brain auto-corrected it. So now when we understand editing, there are a couple of things that you need to understand. First of all, there are 4 types of editing, and this is what most people get wrong. 4 types of editing. Number 1 is developmental editing. Developmental editing is when you look at the manuscript as a whole, the book as a whole. Does it convey the message that the author wants to convey? Are the bigger chapters correct? Are they necessary? Right? Does it have the information that it needs to have? So developmental editing takes a look at the book as a whole and start to move around or piece or even break apart some elements of the book that may or may not need to be there. The next 2 types of editing are copy and line editing. Copy editing is when you're looking at things more on like a paragraph level, right? And we're going to be looking at tonality, right? Does it convey the right emotion that we're looking for? Copy editing also includes fact checking. If you have information in your book and you're citing other sources or you're stating a claim, copy editing helps to confirm those claims and make sure the information in your book is correct. Line editing is more of a sentence level, right? Looking at the sentence structure, the syntax of the way a sentence is built, right? Does it make sense? If I read the sentence, does it flow? Is there continuity? Is there consistency? And then finally, proofreading. Now, of course, proofreading is the most popular. This is what people usually say is editing. So when people think of editing, what they're really thinking of is proofreading. Are there any typos or grammar errors, misspelled words, repeated words, or anything like that? Do we have any of those issues? That's proofreading. Now, understand that these different types of editing usually requires a different type of expertise. So somebody who is a developmental editor might not be great at proofreading. Somebody who's great at proofreading might not be great at developmental editing. That's why there are different types of editors. So with copy and line editing, and I always combine those two because typically an average editor is very good at copy, line, and proofreading. They sometimes struggle with developmental editing because they don't understand the market. They don't understand market research. They don't understand audience building or how to appeal to a target audience. So those who are developmental editors, they typically have a marketing background, right? They know who you wrote this book for. Copy, line, and proof editors, they're really like, those are the grammar police, right? They're the ones who are very good with English. They did great in high school, right? They wrote the best papers. So looking at those two, you want to make sure that you understand when you hire an editor, what is their area of expertise? Now let's talk investment, right? Because I mentioned that editing is one of the most expensive elements of producing a book. Developmental editing is usually the most costly because a developmental editor has to read the book as a whole. Like they have to read the entire manuscript. Then they have to do market research and audience research. They have to understand who you wrote the book for. Then they have to understand who you are as an author. They need to know the way your brain works, right? They need to understand your personal story. They need to understand your area of expertise. There's a lot of research involved in developmental editing, and that's usually why it's more expensive. Copy and line editing is second expensive, right? Because they're looking at, like I said, paragraph and sentence structure. So it doesn't really require research, but it will require them to work with you as the author because they need to get clear on what it is that you're trying to say. What's the emotion you want to evoke? What tone are you using? What's the overall message, right? And so them working with you puts time for them. So, it's kind of second most expensive. And then finally, proofreading is usually the least amount of investment that you would put in for editing because a proofreader doesn't need to know you. They don't need to know the audience. They don't need any of that market research. They're just looking at the manuscript and checking for errors, right? So you could be investing in as little as 2 cents per word for a good editor, 2 cents per word, and as much as 10 cents per word. So you can see, you start doing the math. If you have 100,000 word book, that's going to get pretty costly. You're looking at several $1,000s in order to have your book edited. But trust me when I tell you, it is always worth it. If you find a good editor, and they have to be good, you want to make sure that you're not getting scammed. If you have a good editor, it is always worth it because you're going to end up with a better manuscript and you can ensure that it is clean. So always invest in editing. And know if you have a friend who is a professor, who is a teacher, who is a lecturer, who is a journalist, they are not editors. Now, the only reason I emphasize this is because so many people say, well, I don't really have the money to invest in an editor. So my friend who's a professor at the local college, I'm going to have her edit it. If she's not been trained in book editing and understanding that book editing and editing for like newspapers or student papers or journals, they're not the same type of editing, right? If they were not trained in book editing, they're probably not the right person to hire. So just be prepared to make that investment. Does that make sense? Feeling good? I know we got a lot of information going. All right, next up, pillar. I know we're still on pillar number 2. Time. Yes, Dr. Angie. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I don't. So when you are hiring an editor, that what you're saying is not just one person based on what you just told me.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Okay, good catch. So, whenever I'm working on a project, I don't like to have just one editor. I like 2 or 3. And I always do
Okay.
3 rounds of editing. Because think of it this way, if you had one editor do the developmental editing, but they're also good at copy, line, and proofreading, odds are they've probably read your manuscript at least 2 or 3 times before they're ready to proofread it. Which means now the brain has started to memorize what the text is supposed to be. And
Uh,
their brain is going to start to kick in that autocorrect feature. So whoever does your
mm.
developmental editing and your copy and line editing, I would not recommend they do proofreading. You need a fresh set of eyes to proofread the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so in other words, what you're saying, the proofreading is just only grammar and typo and all those things. And this person should be the one that just have no idea about your story. They're just fresh. So they, like you said, they cannot autocorrect because they haven't seen anything. They're just strictly checking for grammar, typo, and what you calling it typo error and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do want to make sure that the proofreader at least knows the author. Like, so I do the introduction
Uh-huh.
because when you are emotionally attached to the person that you're working for, you're going to make sure that you do a great job because you don't want to let that person down. So we do want to make sure that the relationship is built, but I keep the manuscript away from the proofreader to make sure that the proofreader never sets eyes on the inside content of the book until they're ready to start working on it.
Good point. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's take a look at cover design. This is probably, I have to do my little dance because this is probably one of my favorite elements of designing a book is the cover. And the funny thing is, so many people really envision how they want people to feel when they look at their cover, but they don't do the necessary market research to determine if the cover is good. Let me tell you something, ladies. Cover designs trend every 3 to 5 years. I'll say that one more time. Cover designs trend every 3 to 5 years. How can you prove this? You can look at a book cover and tell whether or not it was published in the 90s versus when it was published in the 2010s. You can tell that because of the elements that was used in the design work of it. So when you know that cover designs trend, you have to pay attention to the current trend that is currently happening for when you publish your book, because you do not want to design an outdated, antiquated cover and think you're going to be able to compete with the new books that are being published today, right? It's like you're in the cell phone space and you decided to design a new flip phone when everybody else has smartphones. It's just not, you're not competing. You're not going to win. You're not competing, right? So you have to pay attention to those trends. Now let's take a look at how covers are designed today, what works and what doesn't. Let's start with what doesn't. So here's some examples of some not so great covers. Now, no shade to the authors. It is quite possible that these books are amazing. But guess what? We all judge books by their cover, and you couldn't convince me to pick this book up and read it. Starting with the first one. Unfortunately, we are currently in a trend where the use of photo stock images are going obsolete. People aren't using them much anymore. And those who do, it's very clear that it was a self-published book. Now, if you're trying to compete with a book that's like on the New York Times bestseller list, or you at least want people to feel like your book is high quality, the use of stock photos and images like this just don't work anymore. It's quite antiquated. And you're looking at a book that was published in the late 90s right here. The other issue with this book cover is the text. It's so tiny. We can barely read that. That's not helpful at all. Okay. The second book. Now I'm gonna actually zoom in here. Am I able to do that? Yeah, let's zoom in. We're gonna take a look at this cover right here. There's so much happening in the background that you can barely read this. Now, if we look really close, and it's so funny because when I first added this book cover to the slide, I didn't even see this. If you look really close, look at that. There's a subtitle. And we didn't even know, right? This doesn't work. You have to be mindful of how the text of or how the title or even the byline of your book shows up on top of the image. And then, of course, having the colored bar at the top is pretty problematic because it doesn't look like that anymore, right? That's another outdated style. Then you have this one. I don't even know what's going on. Like, if you ladies want to try to break this down, you go ahead because I don't think I can do that. So it's just an amalgamation of all these different images. And I'm so confused by the picture that I usually don't even take time to read what the book is even about, right? More stock photos to create an cover that just doesn't look high quality. They unfortunately look very low quality. And if the book inside is good, we wouldn't know because we can't get past the cover. Now let's take a look at some great covers that are currently trending. Do you see a major difference?
Wow.
You see a major difference. All right, so the current trend that we're in right now, most books on the New York Times bestseller list for nonfiction all follow the same general element design. Number one is the size of the main title. The size of the main title is huge, and it's always less than 5 words. Main titles today are no more than 5 words. I try to stay between 3 and 4 words, okay? Because the design of the cover needs to be huge. So the main title is big. And then they all have kind of this texture element behind it, right? So it's not just a solid color. If we look really close, I'm going to zoom in one more time. You can see there's some texture in each of these, right? Some type of element that's designed in the background, okay? So that's a huge trend that's happening right now. And then, of course, you have the byline. The byline is who wrote the book, the author's names. Small, right? So here's the subtitle here, here's the subtitle here, and then subtitle here, right? Relatively small. So what's funny about these covers is these two are on the New York Times bestseller list. Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list, I think we're going on years now. I think we're going on 3 to 4 years. It's been in the top 10, right? So it's killing it in the game. And then the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins is relatively new, but she's skyrocketed to #1, and she's been holding that #1 position for a long time. These two in between, The Power of Nails and God Hates Me, those are my authors. Starting with Katie Nguyen. Katie Nguyen is an author of mine. She's an independent nail technician, and she's teaching other independent nail techs how to grow and scale their businesses to 6 figures. God Hates Me is by Ivory Crump. She's another one of my authors. And understand that I designed both of these covers. So God Hates Me, Ivory Crump is a religious trauma expert. So she helps people overcome spiritual abuse or people who have been violated by the hands of the church. So her book was really about how she felt like God hated her anytime she did anything slightly wrong. Now, this is one of the most powerful books I've ever worked on. So I knew when coming up with the title of the book and subsequently coming up with the design of the book, it had to be striking. It had to be powerful. And of course, it had to give a nod to the current trend. So when designing your book cover, we need to make sure that they look amazing. And yes, these 2 books are self-published. See, Atomic Habits and the Let Them Theory was traditionally published. That means a huge, large publishing house like Simon Schuster or HarperCollins published those books. But these 2 were self-published. But just because they're self-published doesn't mean they have to look like they were self-published. Now I'm gonna pause there for questions before we move on to that third element. Any questions about these covers? Dr. Angie.
Okay, when I see this, to tell I'm being very transparent. I was surprised. Okay, number 1, I was surprised. Number 2, how simple it looks. Okay, number 3, I don't see any background like what I've seen in many, many, many books, including, you know what I mean, like some kind of a subtle message or something that would inspire you, the background pictures or anything, and I like to get feedback from all of you. I'm surprised. I don't know. What's your thought, you guys?
I agree.
I am surprised. I did not think this is the trend now that is very popular. Because Robbie, come on, Robbie, you've seen that, your book and everybody books. I do not see any of our books look like this.
You know what? To tell you the truth, I think those covers look very boring.
My
To me, it's so plain that there is no effort in creating the, I want to be transparent, I want to be honest, because this is our workshop for us to learn. But
Absolutely.
if this is the trend,
Gone.
I am just surprised. That's all I have to say. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
But I have to, like you said, you have to do the research and all those things. But I'm just surprised. And personally, I do not relate to that.
Yeah.
At least the green one has color and some vibrance, where everything else is just.
Yeah. So I may be a
plain.
minor in this readers, This is will not catch my eyes.
And what's crazy, so let's jump. So when we do the market research, the other thing that you have to pay attention to is who you wrote the book for, right? So these books are all written for entrepreneurs, people who are a little bit more technical minded. So something like a very photo heavy cover would not appeal to them. Now we find ourselves, and this is why market research is important, because when you look at what's trending, we're in an age where minimalistic sells. People like minimalistic designs, like even the way we design homes now versus how we used to design homes in the past. When you look at interior design, like remember we had couches with floral print, like there was always so much on it. Now we just have plain colored couches, right? That's the trend. That's what people buy into. And so when something looks minimalistic, it tends to have this visual of, oh, it must be higher quality. It's simple yet powerful. So that whole idea of the high quality, it's all a part of what we like to call marketing psychologically. So everything that we do, from the way we design a cover to the name of the book, it's all about tapping into the psychosis of your audience. Understand what's going to get them to buy the book, what's going to get them to take action. And in this day and age, the phrase that we like to use is what's going to stop the scroll. So imagine that, you're running ads for your book. Somebody's scrolling through TikTok, they're scrolling through Instagram, they're scrolling through Facebook. What is it that they need to see to stop their scroll so that they want to click on your ad? They want to click on the cover of your book. Minimalistic is what sells. And it happened right after COVID. So the way that books were designed previously, and we're going to pivot here. I know I still want to stay on schedule here, but I just want to show you something. We're going to pivot for a second. I want you to look at something. The way book covers were designed in 2008 was created, believe it or not, by Michelle Obama. The way Michelle Obama had designed her cover for Becoming really set the tone for how books were designed right around 2018, 2019, so just before COVID. So women who were publishing nonfiction books or books that were specific to them published books with a simple color background, one word title, and then their picture. She set the tone really for how books were being designed nowadays. And now if we look back kind of at these cover designs, she set the tone for this as well. Because look at how big her title is. See, the titles used to be small and then the image would be big. But because she released this and people loved the book, they loved her and they loved the design of it, we took that and it became the new trend. So if we were to look at, let's go to the New York Times bestseller list. New York Times bestseller nonfiction. We can say 2024, we should still be within that trend. All right, here's another one. Think Again, right? Not very graphic heavy. They do have a single image, but again, the text is huge and you have the main title, right? I'm going to take you actually to my website and I'm going to show you some other designs. The way you design a book is crucial, okay? So this is my website. We're going to come down and look at how some of these other books we did were designed. Welcome to my site, ladies. Let's just jump into it. Just want to get a list up. Okay, so here's how some of the other books are designed. But again, it is dependent on the audience. So this one right here, The Hood Needs Love Too. This is a very Afrocentric focused audience. So we wanted to create designs that would speak to Black culture. And so that's why we designed it this way, right? This one, the Forget Me Not Journal, many of you ladies know this. This is my mom's book. We had to design it to focus on Alzheimer's Association. So they were really purple. They liked the flowers. They needed elements of both. So that's how we designed it. This is a nonfiction book, right? So there's many different ways to design a book depending on your audience. You have to know who you're writing this book for. Okay. Now I want to show you one more, and we're talking about we're talking about business books. This is one of my most recent, and I think one of my most best-selling books recently was You Suck at Communicating. I love this book because it's a really awesome book, but the way we designed it still gave a nod to the minimalistic design where it's not graphic heavy, it's not image heavy. We're not using any Photoshop images, right? Nothing that you would see on Pixabay or Unsplash, none of these free royalty-free image sites. But the title is clear, the graphic is clear, and it is something that is quite powerful. Right? Does that make sense? So the ones that I showed you ladies, that's what's trending in the nonfiction business development, personal development, self-help space. But when you design your cover, you have to do the market research. Who are you serving and what is their expectation?
Um, I know if I want to just this is I smile when I see this because when I was a food safety officer, I create a crisis management manual. Okay. And I have the reason I laugh because I created, I mean, somebody helped me, the title and the sub here, what this manual for, that subtitle. And then I have like a graphic, if you prepare crisis and crisis happen equal this. And that's why I was laughing because I seen this. This is the manual that I created in 2005.
Wow.
Okay, 2005,
Yeah.
2003. That is for the franchisee to use it as the Bible or the manual for crisis management. So that's why I laugh because I thought, wow, it's a
It's
manual
almost like
that I created.
yours. That is awesome. Well, I love that. So, and that's the thing, right? You have to understand who you're writing the book for or the manual for, and then design it for them. So, understand the ones that I showed you, that's what's trending right now. But you'll see all of these book covers that you see right here, I designed them, like I penned them, and then I had my team create them, but we designed all of these. Okay, so it's really important for you to do that market research. All right, I know we went off on a tangent there. We're going to jump back in. Let's jump back in, shall we? Thank you, Dr. Angie, for that question, though. I think that was really amazing. And thank you, ladies, for all of your feedback. It's so good to know that you ladies are like, no, this doesn't work for us. But understand who your buyers are, okay? Understand who your buyers are, and that's what it comes down to. All right, let's keep it going. Now let's take a look at interior design and formatting. So once you have your manuscript edited and your cover has been designed, now you're ready to design the interior and set it up for publishing. So let's start with understanding the difference. So interior design is designing the inside look and feel of your book. And that includes things like your font type. What type of fonts are you going to use? And another one is font sizes and hierarchy. So if we know that your book is really text heavy, we probably are going to use a smaller font. If we know that it's going to be for like a manual per se. Manuals tend to use smaller fonts, but books that are meant to be a little bit more engaging will use a larger sized font, right? To keep your readers engaged, to create the look and feel of the book. So interior design covers the font types, the font sizes, and the hierarchies, which would be like the headings, the subheadings, and then the body text. Then you have the format types. Now, the format types are the names of the files that you have that you're going to upload to publish your book, which we'll talk about how to do in a second. So format types, you have like an ebook or you have a print version. For ebook, one of the most popular ebook formats are Kindle, right? And the file type for Kindle is KPF. KPF is a Kindle font, Kindle format type. Another one is EPUB, which stands for electronic publishing. So when you publish a ebook, the file type is going to be EPUB. And then Mobi is another one, which is ebook, but it actually needs to remove that because it's obsolete now. So it used to be huge, maybe about 10 years ago, but now nobody uses that format type and it's gonna be gone soon. Platforms are no longer gonna accept it. And then you have PDF. That's the one we all know. PDF is the print ready file. So when your book is ready to be printed and you want to hold it physically, you're going to use a PDF file. Okay. Now I know that one's just a really quick one, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to keep going. Now let's talk about publish. How do you independently publish a book for success? There are three things that need to be decided or created when publishing a book. Number one, the platform. Number two, the metadata. And number three, bestseller status. Oh, yeah, because everybody wants bestseller. Let's start with the platform. So here's
Portia, I don't know with everybody. I seen the audio window that blocking my view.
Sorry.
Me too.
Sorry.
Yeah, now that's
Thank
All right,
better.
ladies.
Thank you.
There you go. Is that better?
Much
Yes,
better.
now we can see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So, first one is the platform. What platform are you going to use to upload your book? Now, as I mentioned, I'm an independent publishing expert. That means self-publishing. So, when we self-publish our books, we get to utilize online platforms to have our books uploaded to the internet and available for purchase. The most popular one is KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. KDP is owned by Amazon, and Amazon is the number one online retailer for books. When people want to buy books, they flood Amazon first. Now, Amazon is not my favorite, but it is a necessary evil just because it's number one. So you have to get your book in the Amazon stores. My favorite is Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark is like Amazon's bigger brother. Okay. Technically, their competitors are always pushing against one another, but Ingram Spark is better because they are the kings of distribution. Ingram Spark gets your book in over 45,000 different online stores, including Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, Goodreads, Waterstones, Books a Zillion, and so many more, right? Now, there are other ones like Smashwords, Draft Digital Book Baby, Blurb, Lulu. None of them are my favorite. None of them compare to Ingram Spark. So we're going to focus on Ingram Spark and KDP. Now, Ingram Spark and KDP and all the others are considered print on demand or POD. Print on demand means when you upload all of your files and have them ready for buying, when somebody goes to Amazon and they buy your book, Amazon will print the book and ship it to them. That's print on demand. That means you don't have to worry about order fulfillment. You don't have to worry about print costs or fronting the print cost, I should say. Amazon handles all of it. Same with Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark is more like a warehouse. So it's sort of kind of print on demand. But what they do is they print your books in bulk and then they send them to these different stores so your book is available. Those stores hold your book in the warehouse. And so when somebody orders it, that store will send the book out to them. But again, you're not focused on print costs upfront and you're not worried about order fulfillment. These platforms handle all of it. Now, as beautiful as that is, especially for those of us who are too busy to handle sales on our own, the only thing that is not great about it is that these platforms take a pretty significant cut. So with KDP, you're probably only going to retain about 30% of the cost of your book, right? And Ingram Spark, you can get about 40%, which is slightly better, but what I love about Ingram Spark is the print quality for the book is better than KDP. So I've compared the two, and KDP is kind of lackluster. Now, what you'll ladies learn about me is I'm all about high quality. I like expensive things. I like when things look expensive, and I like when they look cheap. So when it comes to choosing a quality for my book, a book that has my name on it, my reputation's on the line, I'm definitely going to go with the higher quality, and that's why I go with Ingram Spark. Okay. So those are the two platforms that I often use for my authors, KDP and Ingram Spark. There was something I wanted to mention about Ingram. I cannot recall, but basically those are the two platforms that I use. All right, then there's the metadata. Now, ladies, please do not be overwhelmed by this section, but it is a lot, so brace yourself. So the metadata is all of the information that is attached to your book. So think of it this way. Whenever you publish a book, There's all this information in the background that details, that's connected specifically to that book. So no matter where your book is published, everybody has the same information. So one of the first things is an ISBN, an International Standard Book Number. An ISBN is basically the social security number for your book. It's the easiest way to think about it. Every book sold around the world has to have an ISBN, right? Because that social security number is tied directly to your book. So no matter where it goes, we know that it belongs to to you, whoever owns the ISBN. Then there's the subtitle and the title, right? That's the main metadata, what your book is about. Then you have genres, categories, and BISAC codes. Let's explain this. Starting with BISAC. BISAC stands for Book Industry Standards and Communication. It's a global entity that helps you to categorize your book. So for example, if you publish a vegan cookbook, there's going to be a BISAC code for vegan cookbooks, and you're going to attach that code to your book. So when stores hold your books in their systems, they're properly categorizing it. If you choose the wrong code, so say, for example, you have a vegan cookbook, but you chose the wrong code and you attached a soul food cookbook to your book, or soul food cookbook code to your book is going to be in the wrong area. So you're completely missing your audience. So while people are going to be out there searching for vegan cookbooks, they're not going to see your book. The people who are doing soulful cooking is going to see your book, and they definitely don't want a vegan cookbook, right? So you have to be mindful of choosing the right BISAC codes. Now, here's the thing about Amazon. We all know Amazon is a giant. They like to take over everything, and they don't follow the rules. Amazon is the only bookstore in the United States that does not follow BISAC codes. Instead, they created their own list of genres. They said, we're not following this. We have our own list of book genres that you get to choose from. And they have over 100 of them. There are so many genres, subgenres, and subgenres that you get to attach your book to. So when determining where to position your book in the Amazon bookstore, you have to choose the right genre so you get in front of the right audience, okay? So that's genres, categories, and BISAC codes. Then finally, you have keywords. Now, this is where we get kind of technical. Keywords help your book to show up in search engine results. So for example, let's say you did this vegan cookbook. If somebody searched, what's the best vegan cookbook out there? And you attach the keyword best vegan cookbook to your book is going to show up as a result. If somebody put that into Google, right? Keywords are very important because you want to make sure that you've optimized your book to show up in other people's search engine results. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. Then you have synopsis. What is the book about? Right? A lot of people like to do really long synopsis, which as a reader, I actually appreciate really long synopsis. But other people in my industry and even my own mentors that I look up to, they tell you never to do a long synopsis. I like to break the rules and say, do a long synopsis because I'm an avid reader. I like reading long synopsis, long pieces of information about what a book is about before I buy the book. Personally like that. I haven't done the research to see if there really is a difference between a long and a short synopsis, but we're going to do what we want to do anyway. So synopses are important. And then you have the author's bio. This is your biography. Now, the reason this is important, and we're going to go back to my internet here. I know I'm diving off for a second, but I just want to show you this. I want to search my name. So the reason why your author bio is important because it determines how you show up on Google. You want to make sure that you're totally Googleable. Having this right here is called a Google Knowledge Panel. Having a Google Knowledge Panel verifies you as an expert, right? And when you have your author's bio, it will appear right here. Do you guys see this? This right here is where my bio is. That bio needs to be consistent across all platforms. And the easiest way to do that is to attach a bio to my book. So since my book is everywhere, now so is my bio. And it needs to be accurate, okay? So you want to be very careful and particular about how you craft your author bio so that you can get like a Google Knowledge panel like this. Make sense? Ooh, okay, good. Let's jump back in. Yeah, this is fun. I'm kind of all over the place with it. But hey, you ladies are sticking with me, so I love it. All right, let's full screen. And we are back. Okay. So that's the metadata. All of that information is important. Okay. Now let's talk about the bestseller category. Bestseller. Here's the thing. It is so easy to get bestseller on Amazon because of how the algorithm is built. So on Amazon, what they do is they take a look at the most books sold in a particular category within a specific window. Now, word on the street is that Amazon refreshes their algorithm every 1 to 3 hours. So as long as you publish your book and sell enough copies in that hour, odds are you'll win, right? You'll hit number 1. Now, here's the thing. Remember I told you that Amazon has a very long list of genres? That actually works out in our favor because that means we have so many subgenres that we can choose from. So let's say vegan cookbook is a genre, and then it narrows it down and says vegan cookbooks written by women. And it narrows it down more and says vegan cookbooks written by BIPOC women, right? Women of color. That category is going to have maybe like 1 or 2 people in it. That means I'm only competing with 1 or 2 other books in that category. And odds are those 2 other people that are in that category probably published their books years ago. So all I have to do is release my book and get a handful of people to buy it within a 3-hour window. If I outsell the other 2 books that are in that category, congratulations, I have hit number 1 bestseller. Now, that's why I like to call it the loyal 50 strategy. If you can get 50 friends, relatives, colleagues, and supporters to agree to buy your book on Amazon within a 3-hour window, you're almost guaranteed to hit bestseller status. Now, here's the thing. We try to spin it and make it so easy for our loyal 50 to take action, which is why we published the ebook version for 99 cents. See, for those of us who don't have a massive audience, and I have to be honest, at the time when I published my book, I didn't have a massive audience. I had maybe about 20 people who knew me, who liked me, and who trusted me. So I knew that I need those 20 people to be super engaged. I need them to be active. And so when I give them the link, they need to buy the book within 3 hours. So I told them, here, the ebook is 99 cents. So if you don't have money, don't worry. You only need 99 cents. So I'm trying to remove as many objections as possible. So if money's an issue, it's 99 cents. So I'm gonna drop this link, click it, and then go buy the ebook for 99 cents. And of course, I became a number 1 international best-selling author because I had those people from different countries buying my book within that 3-hour window. And that's why so many people can say that they're an Amazon bestseller. Now, I know some people feel like, but doesn't that diminish the power of being a bestseller? Actually, no, because readers don't know how easy it is for you to get it. And number 2, when it comes to expanding your thought leadership, and if you want to get into the public speaking space, organizers love having people on their stages who have best-selling author attached to their name. So it still holds a lot of power. Even though it's relatively easy to get on Amazon, it's still an important thing that you should do. Now, there are the other ones, right? Like the New York Times bestseller list. To get on the New York Times bestseller list, you have to sell 10,000 copies in a week over a large geographical region, okay? And those stores have to report sales of your book to the New York Times bestseller. So for an independent author, it's really hard to achieve without hiring a marketing company to do it for you. And those marketing companies charge anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000 to get you New York Times bestseller, right? So not impossible, just really hard, okay? So that's the process of publishing. Now, we just want to focus on time. We have about 40 minutes left in this session. So let's keep it going. Are you ladies ready to talk about how to launch the book? See, now understand that there is a difference between publishing a book and launching a book. So we know how book launches typically works, right? We usually get people together and understand I'm talking about your personal book. So if you are the only author of your book. So when you've released your own book, usually what we do is we call up friends and family and say, "Hey, my book is live and it's out there and I'm super excited. Come and help me celebrate." And it's beautiful. It's amazing. We also realize it's expensive. It's expensive to plan and host a party so we can celebrate the release of my book. But what if, just what if, you wrote a book that was meant to solve a problem for people? And your goal is to present yourself as an expert that somebody should work with or invest their time and money with to get to that solution. Well, if your goal is to make money with your book, instead of celebrating you, what happens if you celebrate your reader? And that's exactly what I did. I created a launch strategy that allowed me to generate $30,000 with a single launch. Launch.
Uh-oh.
Of just making $30,000 with my book, I also transformed lives because of how I did it. So it wasn't just making money, it was making an impact. So I'm going to explain to you how I did that. We're going to focus on the money first, and then we're going to talk about impact. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So, first and foremost, instead of hosting a party to celebrate me, myself, and I turned my book into a virtual event. So the name of my book is The CEO Author, and it basically details how you can write a book and use your book in your business. Because my book contained a solution to a problem that people had, I could take that same problem and solution and turn it into a virtual summit. Now, at this virtual summit, I had speaker friends, friends of mine who were bigger, better, faster, and stronger than me. They're so good at speaking. I invited them to come speak at my virtual summit, and it all happened through Zoom. So I had 4 speaker friends come and talk to my audience about how we use books to grow and scale our careers. My one friend talked about how to use a book to build your personal brand. My another friend talked about how to use your book to get on a TEDx stage. I had another friend talk about how to use your book to pitch a series to Netflix. And I had another friend talk about how to use your book to get digital media and get in front of television and podcasts. So each of those friends came and they really gave tons of value to my audience. Now, this event was free. I had over 100 people register for this event, and about, I would say, 80 of them showed up. Okay. Now, here's the thing, we're talking about making money here. I gave them the option to upgrade their free ticket to a $47 VIP ticket. And VIP gave you access to freebies that my friends were giving. And it gave them access to a pre-party that was happening the day before. We played games, we had fun, we networked, we did all that stuff. It was $47. We sold about 70 of those $47 tickets. Okay. Now, during the event, I had 3 call to actions. 3 call to actions. So during the event, we're giving out tons of value. I did a live reading of my book. I talked about the power of having a book. We shared personal stories, and each of my speaker friends spoke. Now I had 3 actions that the audience members could take. So this was a 4-hour event. So at the first hour, I told them, if you love this information, if you love what you're getting out of this event, go and buy my new book, The CEO Author. The CEO Author was $12.99, and I had about 74 people purchase my book at $12.99. The second call to action was, if you're loving this summit so far, I have a workbook that helps you to implement everything that you're learning. Go buy that workbook for $17. I had about 50 people buy that $17 notebook, all during the live summit, guys. This is all happening live. Then the third call to action. If you know that this information is really great for you and you're ready to take the next step, book a call with me. So this was in the Zoom. I dropped the link to my call. I told them to schedule a call. 22 people scheduled a one-on-one Zoom call with me. Out of those 22 people, 8 of them became clients. That's 4 streams of revenue from one event. The first stream of revenue was the $47 ticket. Second stream was the $12.99 book. Third stream was the $17 workbook. And then the fourth stream was to become my client at varying prices, right? It ultimately depended on what they needed from me. And that's how we were able to generate revenue. But it wasn't just that. After the live event was over, I had a bunch of new people in my audience, people who loved the event. They felt like it was super impactful and it helped them where they were stuck. A lot of them had an idea of writing a book, but they didn't really know how to do it on their own. So the event was truly helpful for them. So all I needed to do at that point was to continue the conversation, continuing to be that resource for them and continuing to be my authentic self, who I am, to help them get to where they want to go. So if you were to look at this whole thing, you'll see that the revenue that I had generated was $30,000. Now, if you're like, Portia, that math doesn't math, let me explain. I broke it down into 4 phases. Phase 1 was the virtual event, the Zoom that I was telling you about. Okay, that's the one that had the 3 call to actions. But after the event was over, I created an ebook from the event and I titled it 5 Mistakes Entrepreneurs Make When Publishing a Book. Now, this ebook was totally free, but it gave me more people into my audience. More people who were interested downloaded the ebook and joined my email list. The third phase was now I pivoted to live trainings. So after the virtual summit was over, I had people on my email list. So I sent them an email and said, hey guys, I'm in Southern California. I'm doing this live training. Why don't you come join me? And we're going to make this event live and in person. And so we did. Now, after that training, I wanted to focus on my personal brand. Now I need more speaking engagements. I need to get in front of more people. I need to do a book tour. And I need to get on podcasts, TV shows, radio shows, news stations, and everything in between. And so I did. So after enacting these 4 phases, understand that I did these 4 phases within a 3-month period. And that's how I generated $37,902.22. Now, if you see on my screen here, this started August 19th. August 19th was the day that my book went live. And then December 19th, within a 3-month period, this is how much I generated. So that's about $10,000 a month from just being my authentic self, sharing my expertise, but leveraging the content of my book. And let's talk about that leveraging. How do I leverage the content of my book? Now, I talked about expansion in phase 4. So phase 4 was when I really wanted to grow and expand now that the event was over. Understand, after investing in your book, you need to make sure that you make a return on it. And there are up to 13 ways to monetize a book, 13 ways to generate revenue from your book. And I tapped into at least 5 of them. So the first one is to host a live event, which you saw. I hosted the virtual summit and it was amazing. It was impactful for my speaker friends. It was totally impactful for my audience, but it was also impactful for me because it got me an opportunity to connect to the people that I'm serving. From there, I went on to create an online course. So understand that when I'm hosting these things or when I'm building these things, I don't build them from scratch. My book contains all the information that I teach. So when I'm designing an online course, all I have to do is take a chapter from my book and blow that chapter up to create an online course. And that's how I created the CEO Author Academy. From there, I created a paid community. So there are people who want to work with me, but they can't necessarily afford my one-on-one coaching, but they'd rather just be in a space of other individuals who are working on their books and pay a smaller fee, a smaller cost, but still get the same results. And so that paid community allowed me to offer something to more people at a lower investment. Hosting a workshop was another thing that I did. So what you're seeing right now, ladies, this is part of our workshop, okay? We're actually workshopping this together and I'm bringing value. My goal is, again, always to be my authentic self, share my expertise, and help you overcome a problem. So these workshops are very beneficial to people because they're more engaging, they're more interactive, and we typically put things in place, right? We start workshopping things. And then finally, speaking at live events. 90% of my clients come from my public speaking. Now, as I mentioned, I do about 20 or 30 stages a year. And what I love is being able to go up there, tell my story, share my expertise, and really connect with people live and in person. Now, because I'm making those authentic connections and people recognize that I'm somebody that they can trust and somebody who can actually help them, I'm able to build my business around that. So 90% of my clients come from my public speaking. It's a very powerful tool. Okay. So if it's not something that you've considered and you know you're a coach, you're a consultant, you have an area of expertise and you want to help people achieve something, becoming a public speaker is a must. Just like being an author is a must. Those are two things you have to do. All right, so I want to jump into two big mistakes that aspiring authors make. Whew, this is a good one. This is a good one. You guys ready? Number one, they publish their book because they have a crazy story. Like I said earlier, we all kind of have wild stories, right? We've all come from crazy backgrounds and we have a lot that we can talk about. But unless you're a celebrity or an influencer, the only people that are going to publish your book that talks about your crazy story are people who already know you. It doesn't help you expand further than what you've already expanded. And I am a firm believer of stretching myself. I need to be in spaces that I normally wouldn't be in. So if I only focus on my story, it's only going to get me but so far. But if I combine my story with a problem that people have and I provide a solution, it takes me further. And then the second big mistake is they attempt to do it all on their own. There's a crazy statistic that I heard recently. They said that on average, an author who attempts to write their own book by themselves without any help will take them about 6 years to get it done. From the moment they know that they want to, from the time it's published, it takes on average 6 years to get it done. Sandy, I saw you laughing. Are you in that 6-year window? Oh, you're muted. I couldn't hear you.
More like 9.
More like 9 years. Yeah. Right? So
Mhm.
you don't have to do it by yourself. That's why there are self-publishing service providers. That's why there are book coaches like me, somebody who can guide you through the whole process, but also accelerate it in a way that makes sense for you, your audience, and of course, your business. So I'm just going to do just a quick couple of success stories I want to share with you. So these are the two books that I mentioned earlier. Ivory Crumb. Now, I know you guys don't like these covers, but just hear me out. Here's what we've been able to accomplish with these books. So Ivory, when she came to me, she just had a powerful story, but she didn't have a framework that she was using in her coaching business. And she wanted to become a religious trauma coach. She wanted to really go out there and help people who have been abused by the church. So her book went on to become a #1 best-selling book, and she got top new release in multiple categories. From that, we were able to build a 5-figure coaching program around her book, right? We just pulled the content from the book and we built her coaching business. And before we even launched the book, she got 5 new clients from that one book. Katie Nguyen, I mentioned she's an independent nail technician. She became a #1 bestseller and she was top new release in 2 categories. She built a 6-figure coaching business. So that means she's generating $100,000 upwards a month, every single month, from the framework that we put inside of her book. So the content of her book is what we use to create the coaching program, and that's what she's using to generate revenue. She's also used her book to expand her social media presence. So the funny thing is, from this book, we created her workbook, we created her coaching program, we created a mini guide, and we created her audiobook. So she has all these different assets that she created from this one book. And she continues to get new clients on a month-to-month basis. So if you're in that nonfiction space and you serve people in a certain way, you're coaching individuals or you're a consultant, having a book, excuse me, sorry, having a book is crucial. Thank you. So let's do a quick little recap, and this is definitely something that you want to take a picture of. The 5 pillars of publishing a best-selling book. Number 1, you got to write the thing. And remember, there are 3 elements to that. Understand the problem and the solution. State your big promise and create a detailed outline, or in Dr. Angie's sense, you might want to do some word vomiting, right? Talk it out. Pillar number 2 is to produce the book. Production covers 3 elements. That's editing, cover design, and interior design or formatting. Pillar number 3 is publish the book. You have to choose your platform. You have to collect your metadata, and you have to try for bestseller. Pillar number 4 is to launch it. Don't launch it as a party if you want true impact. Launch it as a virtual event. Have multiple call to actions and offer a high ticket thing like somebody hiring to work with you one-on-one. And then finally monetize it. And there are 5 different ways to monetize, where they're up to 13, they say. Host a live event, create an online course, set up a paid community, do a workshop, or speak live, right? By implementing all 5 of these pillars, and I have been able to do it for myself, for my authors, and I do it on repeat every single quarter, we're able to generate money for our businesses and for our lives, but also true impact. And I can't tell you how fulfilling it has been to be able to see people combine their story and their wisdom and put them in highly impactful books that become a part of their legacy. So it's not just about doing another book, it's about changing lives with what you know and what you've been through. And having a system like this allows you to do that. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning that I'm going to give you an opportunity for continued support. So if you're like, yes, Portia, count me in, I need this in my life, I'm going to open up my calendar for the next 24 hours. Okay. The next 24 hours, my calendar is going to be open. So if anything here resonated with you and you know you need additional assistance, or you just brainstorm and talk about what's possible, I'm going to put a link in the chat. This is no obligation. This is totally free. I'm not here to sell you anything. This isn't that. This is just about helping you have that conversation. But we're going to break down what you've learned today and talk about what it looks like to apply it. We're going to discover what obstacles may be in your way, and I'm going to help you move past them. And then I'm going to help you craft a custom roadmap to setting up your book for monetization. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to put a link in the chat. And then we're going to use this as an opportunity for Q&A. So I'd love to know what you ladies are thinking. And oh man, I didn't even see all these questions in the chat. I'm sorry, hold on. No, not 100,000 a month, Sandy. It was 100,000 a year.
That still sounds good.
It does, huh? Sorry, okay. I did not. My chat was not doing what it was supposed to be doing. So there's the link, ladies, if you want to get on my calendar. I'm going to go to Grace's question. She's portion is 17 pages too long for a synopsis. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's that's very long. So a synopsis is, I'm just going to show you one more screen share. I hope you ladies don't mind. I just want to show you this really quick, so you can see what I'm talking about when I say a synopsis. I don't even know what book this is, but this is a synopsis. This is the description of your book, okay? So whatever your book is about, this is where you would write it. So if I did, this is my book, The CEO Author, right here. Here's my synopsis. See, it's pretty short. right? But I personally like long ones, especially if you did fiction. I like reading long synopsis for fiction books. So, yes, ma'am, 17 pages is too long. She said, I prepared a long one for people to read fast, but with more meat so they can review faster. So, I know there's a difference between a synopsis and like the overall book summary. So, for those of us who are into arcs are called advanced reader copies. These are copies of our books that we send out to people to read it before we release it to the world. So, kind of like beta readers. So, if you put together a book summary for your arc, 17 pages isn't too long, but that's not a synopsis. That's what we would call a book summary. So, I hope that's helpful. Okay, any other questions? Miss Robbie, Dr. Robbie's here. I didn't even know. My Zoom was lying to me. I didn't see everybody's faces. Hi, Dr. Robbie.
Oh, yes. I have these questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Your workshop, or your formula, this pillar 5, does it applicable or does it apply when somebody want to relaunch their book?
Ooh, that's a good question. Does it apply when somebody wants to relaunch the book? No, ma'am. Because you would skip a lot of the stuff, like pillars 1 and 2, you would skip because the book is already done. And then when you relaunch a book, you have to be mindful of the metadata, right? Does the metadata have to change? Maybe this is a second edition and we might have to like dive in and change that. Do we need to purchase a new ISBN if it's a new book? So a relaunch is going to be more strategic. So it wouldn't apply here. But you can launch it the same way.
Okay, the one that under the launching, the pillar,
Oh, the fifth pillar.
the pillar number
Yes.
4 and number 5.
Yes, so that does apply. And it's actually something that I plan to do because I released the CEO author in 2023. At the time, I didn't have a massive audience. Now I have a massive audience. I can do what I did then. I could do it all over again, right? Because it's not really about the book, it's about the information that the book contains. And you never get tired of talking about it, especially to new people.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I would think that because we learn, it's just me, that how number 4 and number 5, I admitted that we just did not know. And because Robbie, like I know I heard people like to launch their book to celebrate that and about them, and then we do it in person first. Now, what you're saying is first do a virtual, and to me, it makes sense because you reach more audience.
Absolutely. And we want to understand the difference between the two, right? So if you're referring to an anthology or collaboration book, right? And GSFE has some beautiful collaboration books. It makes sense for GSFE to do a traditional launch. It wouldn't make sense for an anthology to do a virtual summit because the books that we're publishing through GSFE are very personal. So it's not really like business development, self-help, personal development, it's a little bit different. It's really focused on the stories of the women of GSFE.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I would do a virtual summit for another anthology unless the anthology was designed around solving a problem for people.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah,
I
because
do believe our book do solve problems because we get letters from all over the world on our show up books of how people thought when people shared their stories, how people all over the world said, I never knew that. I thought I was the only one going through that. You've made me think I'm stepping out. And the same with our peace book. People got ideas of different way people look at peace. So we do solve
Oh, wow.
yeah,
solve problems.
that's
So
because that's what I thought too. Yes,
then
Robbie.
we can definitely position a virtual summit that reaches people who aren't in GSFE and say, here, what we're going to do is we're going to break down these powerful stories about peace and then create a framework about how to accomplish peace or how to bring peace to your
Well,
community or
how
whatever.
everybody looks at peace differently, but no matter how you look at it, you are helping the peace movement.
Now imagine having a virtual summit where we're not really celebrating per se the members of GSFE, but the focus is on peace, then we put it out into the world, we run ads and we tell people, hey, if you're interested about what it looks like to have peace in the world and in your communities, you want to join this
Or
virtual
even
summit.
peace in your family, peace within
Peace in your
yourself.
family, exactly.
There's so many ways. In fact, our book is got picked to be in the oldest library in the world before Christ, and we're on the shelf with all the scholars in the world. I mean, that to me is a great accomplishment.
Definitely need a virtual summit for that. We do.
Yeah. But I mean, and our new book, What is Your Why, is even going to make people think even deeper.
True.
Because they're going to say, what is your why? Is everybody's why is different. And your why can be this way today and you accomplish it. So your why can change at any time.
Absolutely. Diana, I saw you raise your hand.
Oh yeah. Robbie, the book that we collaborated on the art of showing up, or by showing up, it's all in the ask. I can tell you, I had several people who said they got so much more confidence by reading different stories and how to apply themselves by just showing up. And I think that would actually be good because there's solutions in that for a summit for sure.
Yes.
I do. That would be a good one.
Yeah, because one person say they show up because they have this intention and it solved their problem, become more confidence. Another one, they said, well, I guess if somebody can do this, I can do it too. And that's a lot of times we, especially women, we underestimate our power. And until somebody says you can do this, then they get encouraged to do it. And then I think that is what the books about the showing up, it's just take action. Show up, take action. In other words, if you don't do anything, nothing will happen, regardless.
Absolutely.
But we have a tendency to say, what happened if it doesn't work? Instead of thinking about what happened if it works.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So
Well, you see-
any other questions? And because remember, this is no such thing as stupid questions. And because we do have a time for question, and this is up to me. Thank you, Portia, for these very valuable tips. And especially I'm just learning about the cover. The cover
I
of the
know,
book,
really shocking.
and
I
so
would say, ladies, do a little bit of research on your own. Just go to the New York Times bestseller list and scroll through different designs and different genres. I wouldn't say that there's a right or wrong way per se, but we just want to be mindful of who we're serving and the expectations that our audience has.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I see, Christine, you said I would like to talk with you. So, Christine, I put a link in the chat if you can click it. I don't know if you'll be able to click
Yeah,
it, but
the Calendly, right?
yes, ma'am, the Calendly. So it allows you to
I did that.
choose a date and time.
Yeah. I have another question. I think, Christine, I know you're very good editing. A question about, because I know when I did my first book, because I don't know anything about publishing all stuff, I actually hired a coach, a person that actually helped me publish the book, the font, everything, educate me, and to me it's worth it that to pay somebody to do that, especially when you have no clue what's going on. And I'm not, trying to brag, but I was able to publish my book in 6 months because I have a coach. I have somebody who is an expert, like what you said, because you can't do it yourself.
Mhm.
Even though maybe you're a good writer, well, there's somebody else that has to be an expert in whatever it is. So to me, that I feel personally that I don't care, no matter how good you are, you can't do it yourself. You have to have a group of team to make it happen. That's my experience. So my question is that when we submit a book, because I learn about editing, grammar, and I mean 3 different editor, That is new to me. I did not realize that it's very important to have three or four different, but you basically, can you rephrase that? It's very important to have, you said three
Yeah.
editor?
So understand that I think it's important to convey here that the way that I do things people typically don't, like the average person or the average book coach or the average publishing company wouldn't, but I like to have at least three editors available. So I have five editors on my team. And what I was saying was we do three rounds of editing. So round one is developmental editing, which I do myself. So I always do the developmental editing work on my author's books. Round two is copy and line editing, and that's usually one of my editors. And then round three is proofreading, which is another one of my editors.
Mhm. And a lot of time we only do the proofreading.
Yes, exactly. So, and funny enough, so for me, because I am a professional editor, I can do developmental and copy line editing. So sometimes I will do both at the same time. I will do developmental, copy, and line editing at the same time. And then if we're pressed for time, then I just hand it to my proofreader to do the final round. Right? But there's, again, because this is a self-publishing space, everybody has their way of doing it. There really is no right or wrong. There's only efficient and more efficient. And I like to do things efficiently.
Yes, me too.
Grace, we
The
can
more
see
efficient, the
you.
better. Grace, do you have questions? Because I know you just almost published your book, right? Do you have any questions? Something that this is would help you?
It's in production, so I may connect with you, Portia, on the launching to bestseller. One of the things that I want to do is to use Robbie. Angeline will talk to you about this, but to benefit, like I said, GSFE by giving them a percentage of the book sales. So I uh, other things, and I may need your help with other things, for sure.
Yeah, it's just making it like, okay, you publish a book, but that's also, this is a fundraising for a good cause. Because I
Yeah,
think
Oh,
that is
that's
what
beautiful.
you're talking about too, that
yes,
trying
yes,
to tie in something that the
Impactful.
public can
Yeah.
relate to, right?
yeah,
Absolutely. Like
yeah,
impact is everything. Like I know I often have to talk about like the money aspect because it's not typically free. If you're going to work with a professional to assist you, you're going to have to come out of pocket. So the goal is to at least make that back. But 90% of my clients are entrepreneurs. They're all business owners. So they're concerned about, okay, how much money am I going to make? How can I do this? How can I do that? So I have to incorporate the
Oh,
money
yes,
element
sure. Yeah.
in my teaching. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about growing or expanding your thought leadership, it really is, what is the positive impact that you can have on the world around you? And it's so beautiful that entrepreneurs are perfectly positioned to be able to leverage their platform for good
yeah.
with a book. And so that's my vision. That's my goal for the authors that I work with.
And that's why money is important. Money is great, and we do have to get the money back. But my goal with this book is more of an impact, and if it can impact organizations, if it can impact a person, it's impact, and that's my priority for this book. It's not the last book I'm writing. I've got already 3 books that I'm working on. So it's a bug.
Yeah, it is. And I
When
love
it
that.
bites you,
It's
it
in there.
goes all the way. So yeah,
I rarely work with authors that only publish one book. Like they always do multiple because they get bit by that bug.
yeah. And I'm new to GSFE, but seeing
Oh,
Robbie and Angeline and Susie dedicate their time to educate us and to feed us and help us grow, I want to support that. And if I can support them through my book or the things that I do, I think I want to do, that's a good thing to be able to do.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
before
I
I
love it.
forgot, Portia, I don't know,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
did not plan this, the schedule, but guess what? The next, because I pay attention, I wrote a note. that to do this monetize public speaking is one of them. It's very important. And guess what? In our next meeting, if it's just virtual meeting, my meeting, okay, the speaker of our meeting is Lisa Reed, and she's an expert in the public speaking about how to monetize and promote your book through public speaking. And she is an
Wow.
expert on that because she practiced that. So to me, I think this is kind of like a follow-up, what you just said, we need to do, right? Public
Yeah.
speaking. But especially virtual public speaking that I learned from her, it requires certain skill. It's not the same as in-person meeting public speaking. And because of that, you're gonna learn in 30 minutes, and then of course with questions that she's going to give us tips how to be a powerful public speaker to monetize your business through public speaking. So that is that I would encourage all you ladies to register. And if you cannot attend, remember in my meeting, we record, just like here, we record the session. So because of that, that you're going to learn to what Portia was going to say. Public speaking is very important
Absolutely.
to monetize your book, which
That's
that
so
she's gonna
good.
say the same thing.
I can't wait to attend that one. I know that's going to be amazing.